Here's how I modified the Nerf alien pulse rifle to look straight out of the movies. You ever need something that doesn't exist yet and then it starts to exist right after you no longer need it? That's what happened when I was doing the live action sketches with my friend Diego for our retrospective of all the Aliens and Predator games. We needed a decent pulse rifle prop to look like the Space Marines' weapons from James Cameron's Aliens, but a cheap, commercially available replica wasn't readily available at the time. So we opted to paint this Nerf blaster that looked close enough because of the handle on the top giving it the right silhouette. It worked well enough for the videos, but just a few months later, Nerf announced they were making an actual Aliens pulse rifle, not just something that looked vaguely similar. This was an officially licensed piece of Aliens merch. So even though I no longer technically needed it, I thought it would be cool to have for my collection of random fictional weapon props, and I pre-ordered it. It came out like a year later, and I was stoked to finally check it out. It has an actual digital ammo counter on the side and sound effects. I achieved that same look on my old prop by coloring black marker over a kind of reflector plastic you'd use on a bike, so it was cool to have the real thing. It was a relatively simple modification to pull off. First I used a Dremel tool to carve down the giant Nerf logo molded onto the sides of the blaster, and then when I got far enough along with that, I used a sander to really flatten it out. Next was to mask off all the parts for painting. The only tricky thing was all these cool painted details Nerf added onto the sides. Sure, they're not exactly movie accurate, but I liked them so much I wanted to preserve them if possible. My wife helped me out by carving around the details on the masking tape with an X-Acto blade. I used this forest green matte paint for the main body since it looked pretty close to the color of the movie props. Then I masked it off again and used a chrome black for the mechanical parts. It was important to make sure the paint didn't gum up the mechanism so it wouldn't be able to fire darts anymore. I wanted it to still be functional after all this. One of these days when I have time, I'd like to weather it a little bit by dry brushing some silver paint on the edges for that scraped up metal look. It's a really cool addition to my collection and looks a lot more accurate. I think this will take down any parasitic alien life forms I encounter.